Hello, I'm Jamie Belanger, a member of the finance team here at Southwest Church, and I am here to give you the latest financial update. And again, we do these periodically throughout the year just to keep you apprised of the financial health of the church. And so there's going to be two parts to my update today. First, we're going to spend a little time looking at 2021 and how we're doing so far in the current year. And then we're going to shift our focus to 2022 and talk about the budget for the leadership, or that the leadership team has set for the upcoming year. So let's go ahead and look at 2021 and where we are so far. So through 46 weeks in 2021, our average weekly offering is around $17,800, which represents an increase of about 5% versus the same period in 2020. So if you look at the full year average in 2020, our current year-to-date offering average is up about 3.5%. So that's where we would finish if we stayed on this pace through the remainder of the year. The other thing that you'll notice on this chart is that our giving is about $800 a week below target. If you remember from some of my previous updates, when our current year offering is below target, we've had to reduce our missions spending, we've had to use prior year special offering to make current year mortgage obligations. Well, I'm happy to report that we haven't had to do any of that in 2021. Our cash position remains very, very strong. Our leadership team continually looks, when our offering is below budget, looks at ways to sort of manage our expenses so that we're living within the means that we have as a church. And so the other good thing that we've been able to do, in addition to not having to reduce our missions giving or having to use our special offering for principal or mortgage payments, is we've been able to make additional principal payments on our mortgage above and beyond what's required. I've talked about this in some previous updates. And in 2021, we'd actually budgeted about $50,000 in additional principal payments toward our mortgage. Well, I'm happy to report that to date, we've made actually a little more than that, about $60,000 in additional mortgage principal payments. And so when you put that together with what we were able to do last year, that's about $120,000 of additional mortgage principal payments that we've been able to make, which really speaks to the financial health of the church. And the other thing that really helps us with is our loan. Our current loan is maturing with CDF in 2022. And this obviously puts us in a better position as we look to refinance that loan going forward. So really, again, speaks to the financial health of the church. The other thing that we've been able to do is we've been able to maintain our missions giving at 10%. Remember, this is a commitment that the leadership team has made to give back 10% of what comes in, to give that to our mission partners locally, nationally, and internationally, and we have not had to reduce that, even though our offering has been a little bit below target. So what that means through October is that we've been able to give around $75,000 to our mission partners. So since our last update, we've been able to support the Kindness Backpack program that provides food to local students in need. We've supported relief efforts in Haiti following the earthquake in Tropical Storm Grace. We've helped the Oasis House here locally that supports women survivors of trauma and exploitation. And most recently, we've helped share the gospel and God's love through Operation Christmas Child. So it's really encouraging to see how we've just been able to continue to meet needs in our local community and internationally, just on account of your generosity and on account of God's blessings. We know this has been a challenging year, so it's really encouraging to see how we've been able to maintain that giving throughout 2021. So as you can see, there is a lot to be thankful for in terms of the financial health of the church in the last year in 2021. So now we want to shift our focus a little bit and talk about our plans for 2022. So recently, the leadership team met to set the budget for the next year. And if you were in service this past weekend, you heard a little bit about this, so this will be repetitive. But for anybody who was not able to attend, the first step in the budgeting process is really setting the target, the weekly offering target for the upcoming year. So to do this, the leadership team really looks at a lot of different trends. They go back a number of years. They look at the average weekly offering, the number of people that are giving, the number of people that are attending. And so in 2022, the leadership team has decided to set the target at $20,500 per week, which represents about a 10% increase over this year's budget. As you can see on the chart, our giving is a little bit below the target for 2021. And so if you actually compare the 2022 budget to the 2021 estimate, it's about a 14% increase over that estimate for 2021. But again, it's about a 10% increase over the 2021 budget. And that 10% increase is right in line with the average of where this has been set over the last 5 years. Last year in 2021, it was a little bit lower, but the leadership team felt that as we continue to turn the corner on the pandemic and hopefully start to return to some pre-COVID trends, they were comfortable setting that at 10%, which again is the average over the last 5 years. And again, as I stressed when talking about 2021, it's important to remember that this is a target. The leadership team is very diligent about tracking our spending to ensure that it's adjusted accordingly. And if for some reason the giving isn't at that goal, they'll adjust accordingly. So now let's spend a little bit of time looking at how that target breaks down in terms of spending. So as you can see on this chart, personnel costs represent the largest portion, about 46%, and the building costs are next at about 20%. The building costs include the mortgage, the maintenance, utilities, etc. And both of these buckets are broadly in line with last year, although the personnel portion is actually slightly lower. In 2021, it was about 48% of the total target. So when you look past those two buckets, again, they make up about 66% of our total budget. So that leaves about 34%, which is primarily made up of our missions giving at 10%, and then our ministry spending at about 17%. And that breaks down between sort of our faith development, that's 9%, and that would be our children's ministry, our student ministry, our care ministry, our connections ministry, and then our worship arts, which is about 8%. So if you look at those two buckets, again, combined about 17%, they're actually up versus last year when they represented about 12%. So as we're continuing to set a higher offering target, we're really keeping sort of our personnel and our building costs in line with prior years and really taking that increase and investing it in those faith development efforts. The other thing I wanted to point out on this chart is that you can see we do have money set aside for additional principal payments in 2022. I talked about what we've been able to do over the last couple of years. We've actually set a budget for $24,000 in 2022, so that's something we want to continue in the coming year. And again, over the last 2 years, we've been able to pay off about $120,000 of additional principal on the mortgage. And the last thing I'd say about this chart, and I've talked about this in previous years' updates, that these targets are in line with the model for growing churches, which tells you that we should be about 50% of our resources on personnel and about 30% on facilities. And you can see we're sort of around those levels, actually slightly below. So again, we've been able to sort of hold that as we've been growing, which allows us more money to invest in our ministry and our faith development efforts. So as always, if you have any questions about anything I've shared today, either as it relates to 2021 or the 2022 budget, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself, Kyle Brockmeyer, or Terry Parks, the other members of the finance team. We would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So I hope you've been encouraged by this update, and God bless. Take care.